Welcome everybody to tonight's office hours. As you can see on the screen here, I've already got the disclaimer that I'd like to share with you. Remember, tonight is an open session for you to ask any questions that come to mind. And what I'd like to ask you to do, of course, is let's go ahead and have you put those questions directly into the Q&A section for me this evening. But again, that office hours are not intended to be tax, legal, or investment advice. In those particular cases, you do need to seek advice from a professional in each area before implementing any strategies. We're going to talk on a very high level tonight to try to give you some suggestions on things that are going on. And in fact, I'm going to tell you right now, if you've got really detailed questions about your own personal situation, I may or may not be able to answer them. You may be better off to actually schedule a meeting with one of our advisors, one of our college pro experts, which you can do if you're in the MyCap software. You probably know there's a way that you can schedule that with the expert on there. But anyway, I do want to welcome you this evening. Let me go ahead and stop sharing my screen with that for just a second here and tell you that I'm excited to be with you this evening. Let's go ahead and talk through some things, though. We're in the big appeal season right now, folks. What I mean by that is that we're at a time when hopefully seniors, you have received or starting to receive your financial aid offers that are coming in from the colleges. And with that in mind, you're sitting back and going, okay, is this a fair offer, not a fair offer? What am I going to do? That type of thing. Please know that we're here to help you. We're here to try to help coach you through that. Like I said a minute ago, if you're in a really tough situation with a question that's just too deep for this evening, schedule that meeting. You know what? It could be the best investment that you've got. That's the only sales pitch I'm going to give you. But I'm also going to tell you, too, that you do also get the opportunity to use a coupon. So I'll go ahead and tell you what that is. The coupon is OH20. In fact, I'll type that in here so that you can all see that. It's pretty darn simple, but capital O, capital H20, which equals a 20% discount. Yeah, folks, that's right. A 20% discount off of any upgrades or things that you might do on the software. We're running this for right now. It won't last forever, by the way, I will tell you that, but it's pretty incredible that they're giving a 20% discount. So if you've thought about, again, ordering details about the financial aid, or these financial aid offers, I should say, that are coming in, or if you're trying to do some other things, make sure that you go ahead and do that. Remember, again, I want you to put your questions into the Q&A for me this evening. And without further ado, I'm actually going to share one that actually came in earlier today. It says this: we filed the FAFSA first time for our son, who will start fall of 2023. The breadwinner decided to retire as of 12/31/2022 after the FAFSA was already filed. Son has applied to 9 schools. Who should be notified of this change? What is the best method to notify them? And when should you notify? And is there going to be any effect on the retirement on the award? So that was question number one. I will say this. Number one, colleges are going to expect some span of time. Whenever we're talking retirement or even unemployment, that sometimes comes up, you're going to have to go through a span of time before the colleges sense that there is indeed a financial need that's going on. And keep that in mind. Just literally worked with a family in this same situation. Actually, the father retired back on October the 31st. It was a forced retirement. He's a pilot. But in that particular case, sure enough, when we're reaching out to the financial aid offices, and I'll say this to you, you absolutely ought to pursue it. There's nothing wrong with pursuing it, because if nothing else, you're building a case for the future as far as the way that your income has been impacted. Because let's realize that your 2021 tax return isn't going to be what your new earnings are going to look like going into 2023. But the odds are very strong that it's probably going to be a delayed time before you're going to actually see any benefit to that. Could be 6 months before they do that. Also, it says we're starting to receive acceptance letters with some financial aid information that may include an amount for merit. Is this the final offer? Should we be receiving something additionally for financial aid? And the answer is, it depends on the colleges. Some colleges will split it up. They'll send out the merit scholarships in advance of the financial aid offers. That can often happen. And so it truly is a situation where you just need to make sure that you check it out, that you know what you're getting into. And so if I were in your shoes, I would absolutely be following up with the colleges for this particular family to check with them and understand what's going on. Again, folks, please put your questions in the Q&A, not in the chat box. So let me go to some additional questions. I'm wondering how and when to spend 529 versus savings to maximize financial aid for the following years. Okay, so the answer I would give to you this is it depends on the final school that your student is looking at applying to. And probably the bigger deal is, are you counting on the fact that your student is likely going to, or that maybe you're going to want to have them take out the federal direct student loan? If that is indeed the case, remember that those federal loans, the student loans, are a use it or lose it proposition. What it means that you have to use the $5,500 in the freshman year. You can use it in half in the fall, half of it in the spring, or all of it in the spring, for example, if something happened that way. But it has to be used in the freshman year. Then it goes to $6,500 the sophomore year, $7,500 the junior year, and $7,500 the senior year. So if you use it, great. If you don't, it doesn't. Go ahead and matriculate up to the next year. So keep that in mind. For that reason, that could impact when you spend down your 529 money because of specifically that loan in particular. So that's how I would answer that question for you. I have a plan, a GET plan, and a 529 plan for my son. However, I believe my ex also has one for our son. I will be filling out the FAFSA based on my information. Am I required to disclose the amount he has for our son? Whoever's filling out the FAFSA has to put the information down for the 529 or the savings that you've got. And how are these accounts handled in divorce situations if both parents have these accounts? The one on the FAFSA at least is going to be disclosed. Okay, it has to be disclosed with the parent that's filling it out because those are your assets, just so that we're clear on that. For the other one, it doesn't have to be disclosed because of the fact that, quite frankly, it's monies that it'd be like it was monies that were saved in the grandparent's name where it doesn't have to be disclosed. The exception will be if your student is also applying to a school that requires the CS profile. And in that case, it will be absolutely disclosed on both sides because the vast majority of colleges out there expect both the custodial and the non-custodial parent to submit CS profiles. It's a little different in both cases as far as what you do, but absolutely, it's something that you need to work through. Sorry, my question is about when to communicate changed circumstances to financial aid departments. Immediately. You want to let them know, especially if we're talking seniors, you want to let them know now because this is the time when they're working through the process of their financial aid offers. And we're in a day and age right now where, quite frankly, everyone has a right to appeal, not negotiate, by the way, but appeal the financial aid offer that you've received. And I'm of the opinion that the sooner you get in there and have a conversation with those financial aid offices, the better. Some of these colleges will be very open to working through that with you. Others are going to say, hey, we gave you our best offer at the start. But it never hurts to ask. And sometimes it doesn't hurt to ask multiple times. It might be that the student asks and then the parents ask later if the student gets a no. I also believe that you need to convince every single one of your colleges that that college is their number one, your student's number one school, even if you're trying to leverage one school off of the other. But it's go in and give it your best shot and see what you can do there. Is it too early to appeal financial aid? The answer is no. If we haven't received notices yet. Yeah, in that particular case, you probably want to wait. You say here that your son is still auditioning for music programs and won't hear until probably end of March. Yeah, so you absolutely need to wait because you haven't even got anything yet. Job loss means our 2021 tax return will be completely different from our 2022. Totally get it. And by the way, you absolutely have a reason to have that conversation with the financial aid office. What I would suggest is in the meantime, that you get prepared for it. Okay. What you need to do is you need to be ready for the email that you're going to draft. I traditionally suggest that it comes from the student first and then from the parent. The reason being is that the relationship is between the student and the school, not you, mom or dad. I understand you're paying for it, but I do think that there's some merit in that. And I will tell you it's worked for me with other families that I've helped coach through the appeal process. But have the student work through the student's letter, make sure that you've got documentation. I'm just telling you right now, that's the key, is that they're going to expect you to provide them with information so that they can justify anything else that they may do. So start working on that. As soon as you get an offer in, then I would be on it as far as getting in touch with those financial aid offices. Just started working on the FAFSA. My daughter and I have both filled out the form to obtain an FSA ID, but how do I find out what the ID is? You're creating your FSA ID and your password. You do have to wait, just so that you know, it's anywhere from 3 to 5 business days that they say the Social Security Administration will take to verify that FSA ID. It says we both got emails saying we successfully created an account, but I don't know what the numbers are. Again, you created your own FSA ID in your password, so you should already have that. What I would suggest to you is that, and I will say this, there are some families that don't hear from the FAFSA, from the Social Security Administration at all. In 3 days, I would hop into the FAFSA and see if you can electronically sign it and submit it, because you may be surprised it may have been processed and they just haven't let you know. I lost my job at the beginning of this year. I did contact my son's college counselor, and he has sent me some forms for my son's college selections. When I get a new job, how soon should I follow up with them? As soon as you have a new job, you want to let that college know, what's going on. You have to know, again, that they're going to be sizing up the situation throughout the process. And you bring up a very good point here, by the way. I said the idea of submitting an email to the colleges. You need to reach out to every single college and find out what their protocol is. There could be a situation where they've got a special form that's got to be submitted, as well as additional documentation. And so the whole idea is that you want to make sure that you give them everything that they need, so then they can make a valid determination as far as what's going on. In some cases, it's strictly just an email that's going to the financial aid or the admissions and financial aid office, or the financial aid and scholarship department. And every school's a little different with that. So make sure that you know that you're sending it to the right place. Our EFC for 2023-24 is down to 48,000. Nothing has changed, except our son will be going to a university. So we will have 2 kids in the university. Does that mean that there's a good chance that they may be offering an interest-free loan? Probably not. Do you know typically what the EFC range is to get offered that? I don't. Traditionally, to get an interest-free loan, just so that we're clear here, if you've got a freshman who's going off to college, and if your expected family contribution is super duper low, you have to know it depends on every college what defines super low. But let's say that your EFC came in at 0. I'll make it simple on us. Then it's very likely that your son or daughter is going to qualify for a loan, which is a subsidized loan, meaning that the federal government covers the interest during the time that they're in college. Now, it does start being charged after they graduate, so you do need to know that. But that could be, of the $5,500 loan, it could be $3,500 of that is in the form of a subsidized loan. Honestly, there's too much information missing here for me to give you any more details, other than I will tell you this. You mentioned 2 kids in college at the same time. Do know that with the new Simplification Act that got passed back in December of 2020, that it's eliminating the multi-student discount. And it's hard to say how the colleges are going to approach that if you already have a child that's in college. But what that means is that if your EFC is $48,000 for the first child, it's going to be $48,000 for both children in the future, which is just a smack in the face, I know, but you have to be prepared for that, because that's the way that it works, at least from the federal standpoint. What the institutional colleges are going to do is still up in the air. So to clarify about when to inform colleges my situation has actually improved. Oh, congratulations if your situation is improved. So if you're asking me, do you go back to them now that it's improved after submitting your FAFSA? The answer is no. What you need to do is just plan on reporting that after you file the FAFSA in October of next year. So no, you don't need to go and, because things have gotten better, to let them know that things have gotten better. You want to let them know if things have gotten worse. Parents do not live together. How does the FAFSA take into account the parent that doesn't live with the child? Do they even need to be included? The answer is, if the child is living with one parent, the majority of the time, 51% of the time, that parent is considered the custodial parent. This is in the current format, okay, for seniors. And you would not be disclosing that second parent. But you have to know it's a lot more complicated than that if you're applying or asking this question about a future consideration, because again, the FAFSA Simplification Act, easy for me to say, change the rules, because in the future, it's going to be the parent who provides the most financial benefit to that child. And you got to know that's somewhat of a moving target, because are they still the custodial parent, the non-custodial parent? There's language that's out there that says, indeed, it's going to be the parent who provides the most financial support, regardless of who the child lives with. So stay tuned. That's something that's coming up. Okay, we're planning on appealing for 2 reasons. First, we have a significant loss in income this year. I'm assuming this appeal goes through the financial aid office. That's correct. If we also want to appeal merit award, does that go through the same office, or would that be a separate appeal to admissions? That would actually be a separate to admissions. Although you have to know that merit scholarships can be 2 types. They can be both. There's merit scholarships based on your students' talent, academics, or athletic ability. And then there's need-based scholarships or grants that sometimes colleges will reward a student. So I would actually contact both departments, because it's a separate conversation that's going to take place. My son has applied to 13 schools. All our possible options have received acceptances to 7. with top merit, but will not receive acceptance aid packages to the others 6 until the end of March. Yeah, no, that's a hard one, isn't it? Or the beginning of April. His first choice is in the latter group, but second choice is in the first grouping. Should we be appealing financial aid at his second choice now as opposed to waiting until he receives all packages? Depends. Do you have enough information from the other colleges to leverage them? In other words, did you get a much better merit offer or scholarship offer from another school than in that group of 6, I guess is what I would say, or in the group of 7? If so, then yeah, use that as leverage on those schools, especially if those other schools consider the school or schools that you're referencing competition for them. So yeah, there's definitely some merit in going ahead and doing that now. Don't wait. You have to know that the problem with waiting is eventually schools could say, hey, I'm sorry, but we've run out of money. They only have so much in their endowment funds. And while they're willing to work with students, it's absolutely use it up until it's gone proposition. If you choose to not accept the $5,500 this year, will you be offered this type of loan in the future years? Yeah, so if you complete the FAFSA next year, then yes, you will, but it's no longer the $5,500. It's now $6,500, and you've lost out on the $5,500 that you would have had in the freshman year. So think about that. If it's something that's going to help you in later years as far as paying for college, then you may want to consider taking it out this year as a backup in that case. We applied to more than 10 colleges and sent in the FAFSA to the first 10. However, we now want to send the FAFSA to the additional schools. So call the original 10 schools to ask if I can remove them from the FAFSA and replace with the schools I'm yet to submit. And the response from 8 schools was that they have not yet started to consider the financial aid and won't do so for several more weeks. Unfortunately, the deadline for the remaining schools are close by and I need to submit ASAP. What do you suggest? I suggest, number one, you take the 2 schools that have confirmed that they have downloaded the FAFSA. That's really the question you should have asked, is not so much have you started working on the FAFSA, or the financial aid, but have you downloaded my son or daughter's FAFSA? That's the question. And so if they've downloaded, which many colleges do because it's electronically sent to them, then you should be good to go as far as removing some schools and adding the others in. But because of the deadlines, I would get on that for sure. I know the challenge that you face there, even if it means later on going back in and once you confirm again that the most recent 8 colleges have indeed downloaded that FAFSA, then you go back in and switch them back out to the others. My job situation improves, so I may get less. Again, remember, when you're submitting financial aid forms, the FAFSA or the CSS profile, it's the tax return from 2 years prior. So it's for 2023 graduates, it's the 2021 tax return. And it's the value of the assets on the day that you submit that form. And so they'll eventually catch up to you next year. But everybody gets raises or has a better year the next year. That's not something that you have to go to them and make them aware of. It's based on a set time, a period in time as far as what's going on there. So I wouldn't be doing it if I were you. There's no reason to. If you follow the letter of the law, which you have, you submitted it, it's already good to go. We've already indicated the job loss on the CSS. Okay, that's good then. So in other words, you put that into the special circumstances area, which is great. There's nothing wrong with that. You're just going to need to be prepared to defend that as far as documentation. And like I said, also understand that it's possible that they may not give you anything for a period of time. And that's where you just have to keep on going back and explaining your circumstances. How can families lower their, I assume you're meaning EFC. It totally depends on your situation. There's only 2 ways to reduce your expected family contribution: reduce your income or reduce your assessable assets. And that's just it. That's what drives your expected family contribution, which, by the way, just so we're all clear on this, from the federal standpoint, moving forward, it's going to be called the Student Aid Index. What the private colleges are going to do that do the CS profile, I don't know. They may continue to call it an expected family contribution, but Student Aid Index moving forward from the FAFSA federal side of things. So again, if you can reduce your income, and if you can reduce your income 2 years prior to when you're applying for financial aid, and you can reduce your asset values, the assessable assets, which is anything but your retirement accounts and things like that, then those are the types of things that will reduce your expected family contribution or student aid index. Okay, Peeling Fordham scholarship was 12.5 and need-based grant was 23.7. Your EFC, yeah, will money amounts change? I'm not sure that I understand. Right now, I have 2 in college with the FAFSA. Can I ask them for a guarantee? Good luck on that one. In other words, what you're saying is because you've already got kids in college, can you get them to guarantee that that they won't penalize you for the loss of this multi-student discount? Hey, you know what? It's worth a shot. What the heck? And if you find out yes, would you let me know? I'd really appreciate that. Send me an email at danb as in boy at collegeaidpro.com. I'd love to hear about that. And then see you've got additional details on here. It truly just comes down to having a frank conversation with them as far as what's going on there. So I hope that helps. Have you heard any information on the sibling discount going away? Yes, I have mentioned that before because right now it is scheduled to go away, which means if you're going to have 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 kids in college at the same time, they will all have the same student aid index, that same net dollar amount for one child, which is just unbelievable, folks. But it's absolutely taking place. How would I submit a CS profile being separated from the other parent? You have to go in. So the way it works is this: the custodial parent completes the CS profile using the student's college board login details. So that's where you've got your advanced placement, your SAT scores, and all that stuff is in the college board. So you go in there and the custodial parent uses that. The non-custodial parent is going to have to go in and set up their own account. And so you go in and you set it up as though you're a student, but you'll see there are questions that come up where you can get by on some things, but you literally have to set up your own account and then work on it as a non-custodial parent. Okay. My daughter has gotten into all of her schools she applied to. Congratulations, but a lot depends on the money from school. In the meantime, what would you do about deposits? I would hate to lose housing on the school she finally decides on. So folks, from an ethics standpoint, I'm going to tell you straight up, you can only deposit to one school, just so we're clear on that. That's the way the process is supposed to work, is that you apply to one college, or for sure you accept one college. So don't play that game where you're trying to accept multiple schools. If a school finds out about that, it could be really a problem in a big way. Okay. What you do from a deposit standpoint from the housing might be a little different. You might want to check into it as far as the ability to get a refund if you make a deposit, but do not accept 2 different schools. It's just not professional or the right way to do it. And I can't encourage you to do that. Is it okay to call the financial aid office to verify that our forms were completed correctly? We have a question about the 529 plan showing in parent assets on the CS, but there was also a question in the student finances that asked how much of the parents' assets were related to 529 plans. Actually, so I'm familiar with the question. There's a question that talks about, are there any assets that are in that have parents' assets that are in the student's name? And that has nothing to do with 529 plans, by the way. What it's talking about is sometimes parents very creatively transfer assets to their child's name to try to, quite frankly, hide them. Okay, they're trying to do some things to reduce their EFC or reduce their own taxable income and things like that. So 529 plans owned by parents are supposed to be listed on the FAFSA as an asset of the parents and on the CS profile as an asset of the parents. The only exception to that is, again, if you're divorced and only completing the FAFSA, then it's just that it would be one parent listing those 529 plan assets if they are indeed the custodian for the benefit of the child. The CS profile, though, takes both sides of that coin. Also, to know how second sibling would be treated in the following year if they were to attend the same school or that same school. Again, that's a question you're going to need to have with that school directly. Okay. I have a sizable amount in my checking savings account. If I transfer that amount to someone else before submitting the FAFSA and transfer it back later on, will that be okay? No, it's not the way it's supposed to work, folks. If you're going to be spending that money down or doing something with it, but I can't recommend that to you. That's not ethically correct to do that. So I can't suggest that to you. If your income is lower than in 2021 because of job loss, but you have a one-off asset you use to live off of, for example, having to sell a business, will that lower the likelihood of getting any grants? It all comes down to, have you disclosed everything to the school? If you've disclosed everything to the school as far as your income and your assets, and then need to go back and have a conversation with them about how you're paying for bills and things like that. Look, they're not these terrible ogres that are going to sit there and not take into consideration your circumstances. But you do need to know that you need to have an individual conversation with every single college, and you may find some are more open to it than others. It just really comes down to what things look like today compared to 2021. And truly, that's the problem with using a 2-year tax return or 2 years back, is because it really doesn't necessarily show where you are today. But that's what the colleges do. That's the way that they process it. They're having you put down your 2021 earnings, your 2021 adjusted gross income goes in there. If you use the IRS data retrieval tool, of course, it automatically downloads that information for you. And by the way, somebody asked this a minute ago, and I apologize, I think I slipped over this, but you can indeed contact the colleges directly, their financial aid offices, if you've done the IRS data retrieval tool, and ask them to share with you what information they have, so that if a correction needs to be made, and you can do that, by the way, you can make a correction to the FAFSA, and you also have the ability to go make a correction to the CS profile this year, by the way. I don't know if you knew that, but you do. There's the ability to click on it. How many times you get to do that, I don't know. I just know that it showed up after like the end of November, and it's still there for families I've been working with. So if you needed to make a correction, it might be a one-time, once and done type of proposition. So just be careful with that. But there really isn't no reason why you can't call the college and ask them to help you understand what they're seeing on their side, especially because you're totally blind when it comes to the IRS data retrieval tool. That's why we suggest that families often manually enter in that information so that you know what's going into it, so that you won't get any nasty surprises. Other than, depending upon your circumstances, you may be selected for verification. And in that case, you need to be ready to submit your whatever tax information they're looking for. When is the right time to negotiate with the college? Oh, don't use that word negotiate. It's an appeal. And the answer is as soon as you've got enough information to support it. The fact of the matter is, if you've got financial aid offers that have come in and or merit offers that have come in, and they're different. If you've got one college that gave your student absolutely nothing, and especially, by the way, folks, I'm hoping you're using the MyCap software. That's what it's all about. It's all about trying to help you have an idea of what options you might have. And we're going to hop in there in just a second, by the way. But the fact is, use that too. You can't use it as total leverage because it's not guaranteed. It's our projection based on the stats that you put in, all of the details that you put in. And if that's not exactly the same stuff that you gave to the college, it could be different. But there's no reason why you can't start talking to colleges about either the merit or the need-based aid when you've got enough information to support it. For CS, if your child doesn't give you a CS login, you can't apply, correct? If they don't give you the college board details, then you're correct. But remember, again, it's with the CS, I'm sorry, I don't know if you're married, divorced, what your situation is, but with the CS, your student should know the college will tell you if they need both the FAFSA and the CS profile. And if you don't know that, then just Google CS profile colleges. It's really easy. And then you can verify what they need. What's also nice about that particular report, by the way, is that you also have the chance to see if the college is going to expect the non-custodial parent in a divorce situation to submit their side of the equation as well. So remember, the custodial parent is using the student's college board login details. It's not a CS login, the college board login details. The non-custodial parent is using is setting up their own college board account. Is merit based on your kids' academic achievements, or is our financial situation a part of merit? You're confusing things here. So there's merit scholarships and there's need-based scholarships and grants. So it's two different conversations. Merit is 100% based on your students' academics, their talent, or their athletic ability. That's how that money's given out. Financial aid, financial grants are need-based grants, and need-based scholarship money is given out based on you submitting your financial aid form. Lost my job in Q4 of 2018, did for companies in 2019, and since then have been taking care of elderly parent full-time. What documents should we send financial aid? You've got unemployment, but no longer due. Should I send taxes? What you're going to need to do is get in touch with them. You need to get in touch with the school and find out what they want you to send in to verify. You got to start with their protocol. So find out if there's a form that needs to be completed or what needs to take place there. Okay. Last open question. Is it better to wait until you know if your child wants to go to that school before you're using negotiating again? No, it's not. As I said before, the best leverage you're going to have is when you've got multiple schools that have offered your student opportunities. Every single college should be your student's #1 school, in my opinion. And the bottom line is that you need to go ahead and make sure that you start the appeal process with these colleges. Remember, it's not negotiation, it's an appeal. That you start the appeal process with these colleges when you've got enough information to do it. Whether it's the fact that you've already got a financial aid offer from these schools and or the top school that your student is looking for, but that you've got something that you can go back to them with. By the way, folks, please, again, do not put your questions into the chat box, put it into the Q&A for me. Any information they will implement as far as the new FAFSA changes for 2024-25 year or delay further, I can't find anything on the web. Actually, if you Google, because we will have, by the way, within College Aid Pro presentations that'll take place with this stuff about the FAFSA changes that are coming. You may even want to check the YouTube channel for College Aid Pro. You may find something in there that's already been produced, but there's absolutely information out there. There are a couple of people that have done some detailed explanation about the changes that are coming in. You just have to know that there is some confusion on it because even Congress isn't acting on it right now. Shoot, they're trying to fix the budget issue, right? Debt ceiling. It's going to be a mess. And it's something that you better know what you're getting into because, again, there's no guarantee what it's going to look like down the road other than following what they've said, which is, for example, the loss of the multi-student discount, the effect on divorced families, the fact that every business owner is going to have to come up with a business valuation now that they put down, just like you do with the CS profile, by the way. There's just some big changes. There's also some positives that are coming out of it, but make sure that you do your research because I don't want you to be caught off guard. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and hop into the software for just a second because I want you to see what's one of the newest additions that just got put into it. And you need to know something, folks, whether you know this or not. We at College Aid Pro, specifically our great team of people, are always working to improve it, add to it, provide additional benefits for you. It truly is all about trying to do that. So I'm going to share my screen with you here. And I want you to see this most recent change. For those of you that are maybe not familiar with what the MyCap platform looks like, it's super duper easy to operate. You've got all the controls down the left side down here as far as all the different options that you're working with. What I'm showing you here is the scholar level. So again, remember that discount code I gave you? It's OH20. So O is an opportunity, H is in hot, 20, and that'll give you a 20% discount. But you can start off with MyCap for free by going to mycap.collegeaidpro.com. That will give you, again, access to the software up to 3 colleges, absolutely free. And then if you decide to upgrade because you want to have access to all the colleges, of which there's 3,400 in our platform, then you get to dive into more details. From the beginning up top, it shows you your federal expected family contribution. It's also going to show you your institutional and your consensus. This, of course, will be changing. It will become your student aid index here very soon. Also, you're going to hopefully have some idea of what your family budget looks like when it comes to college. And so the program itself puts this out. So in this particular case, my sample family here, it's $20,000 worth of money that's available per year to help pay for college. What's neat about some of the changes is, so again, this is the scholar level. So this is traditionally $149, but with that 20% discount, of course, that's going to really knock that down. That gives you access to the software for a full year. If you also do the valedictorian level, which is $299, the difference there is that you also get an hour's time with one of our college experts, which could be me or one of the other fine folks that are on our team, to help coach you through things, whatever it might be. You got an appeal question even deeper than we talked about tonight, it's there for you. If you've got issues that are going on that you just need help in the future, if you need help with mapping out what your 4-year college budget is going to be, how you're going to pay for college, we can do that as well. We're pointing you in the direction of other places to find scholarships. All that kind of stuff comes with it. But if we go into this for our search for colleges in the scholar and the valedictorian level, this comes with it. And then go into this advanced school search tool here. What I want you to see is the fact that we've enhanced all of the majors. It's actually, there's 54 majors now that are in the database, which is pretty cool. So that there's a pretty strong likelihood that some of the things that your students are looking at, or students, if you're on here, some things that you may be considering will be in here. Now, why is that a big deal? The reason it's a big deal is because when we help you understand what it's going to cost for your school. So if I go back over to the dashboard on the left, and we work our way down this process here. I'm just going to use Miami University here, but in this particular case, this gives you the 1-year numbers. Then we go on to, this is the 4-year projection as far as what it's going to cost for this school. So you can see that the budget is at $80,000 that the family can pay, but the cost is $138,211. So we need to figure out, okay, how are we going to cover this $58,211? It's very possible that means you're going to cover it with loans. And if I click this more information button here, what it does is it does a really nice job of helping you understand what that translates to. Now, don't want to get too technical with you here, other than to help you understand that, of course, a student can only take out $27,000 worth of federal loans in their own name all 4 years. If they go a fifth year, it's another $4,000 for a grand total of $31,000. But for the sake of simplicity, what we've done here is that we're saying that you're going to maybe do a traditional 10-year repayment program, both mom and dad and the student, for example. And if we put a 6% loan rate on, that means that you're paying $646 per month. Now, why does that major come into play? I want you to look down at the bottom down here, because this is a projection based on this school. So again, this is Miami University, which is located in Oxford, Ohio. Really nice little college. It's too as a public Ivy. But the point is, this is the estimated take-home pay if you got this degree from that college. You're going to make about $3,900 per month. And so you have to ask yourself, if I have to pay $646, can I manage that based on this kind of income? Or if I'm going to do the 25-year income-based repayment program, and by the way, there's some pretty big conversations going on about this right now, that this could change. Now it's $375 per month over the next 25 years. Now, granted, you started with $58,000 that you needed to cover. For the 10-year note, that took it up to $77,000. For the 25 years, that's $112,000. So you've got to keep that in mind as you go through this. Okay. This program is also fantastic for you seniors because of this compare in appeal process. And so I'll show you what I mean is that right now, this program, you manually enter in, like I did here. This is a sample award letter from a student that I plugged in here just to give you a sense. And for example, this student got $10,000 worth of scholarship money here. So the nice thing about it is currently you have to go in, you have to actually manually put that kind of information in here. So if I put $10,000 in here and I go up here and I hit save, then it will actually take that into consideration. And of course, you can see that the remaining cost now dropped to $26,861. What's really awesome is that very soon in the same category, you will be able to upload your offers, your financial aid offer letters, and it will auto-populate the information for you. Isn't that cool? I'm pretty excited about that. That's going to be a game changer when we've got that in here. So stay tuned. It's coming. I promise you. So for those of you who haven't gotten all your financial aid offers in yet, once they come in, we want you to add those in here so that you can clearly see what's going on. You want to be able to compare your colleges side by side. Okay. That's what this is all about, is being able to clearly see that. And then you also get into the whole idea of, okay, how am I going to pay for this school? And again, understanding that with that extra money, of course, that makes a big difference as far as the kind of pricing that we're looking at. This program, the MyCap program, is designed to help you guys have the most transparent conversation that you can with your students, and so that you can make the very best decision for your family, because putting yourself into financial jeopardy to send your son or daughter to a particular school is not necessarily the best idea. And I want to encourage you to do everything that you can to utilize the software, because it really can help with those conversations that need to take place, especially when it comes to the budget and how that then gets applied to all the colleges that they're considering applying to in the future. Because what if, for example, your son or daughter decides they're going to apply to UCLA and they get absolutely nothing? How are you going to feel about having to come up with the full 305 less the $80,000, which leaves you with still $225,000 that somebody has to pay to send your son or daughter to that school? Okay. Or even like Northwestern over here, again, a quality school, right? I think we can agree on that. But in this particular case, you've got almost a $60,000 deficit that still has to be funded. And so we're talking over $200,000 worth of overall costs, less the 80. You still have almost $21,000 that you have to come up with. So it can really help you to have really good conversations about all these things. All right, I see that a couple more questions were popped in the box. Let me see what we've got here. Is there an option in the College Aid Pro to filter for more than one option? Not sure I understand what you mean by option there. You're going to have to give me more details. Junior parents who are separated, not legally yet, Do you know the new changes next year only allow legally separated parents to file FAFSA? If you're separated and living in separate homes or separate households, I'm fairly confident that you are still in a situation where you're considered separated, which following the FAFSA rules allows you to have one parent complete those forms. Now, different story if you're living under the same roof. If you still live under the same roof, then you are considered, in fact, even if you're divorced living under the same roof, then that creates a problem, folks, because you have to be living in separate households. Parents need to be, or you're still considered married, even if you're separated. And I know that in some parts of the country, that can be really tough because of the housing costs and things like that. But I'm just telling you, that's the way that it reads, is that you have to be living in separate places completely. Do you offer a half hour or just an hour consultation on the appeal process, and what's the cost? It's strictly an hour consultation. The pricing, if you click on meet with an expert on your MyCap account, you'll see that'll pop up. Okay, so remember, there's two ways to accomplish that. You can either go with the valedictorian, which gives you the software for the full year. Maybe you've got multiple children in the future, and that'll be a benefit, plus the 1 hour consultation, or you can schedule the 1 hour consultation. But either way, it's still $299. And so that's why you need to use the OH20 as a discount. So that'll knock 20% off of that. College Aid Pro, when you do a search for schools under a criteria of four-year school in a certain major, can you then filter the results by the grading or the amount? Yeah, you absolutely. So let me try to show you what I think you're asking me here. If I go into the advanced search tool, and what you're saying is we're going to choose the 4 years here. We're going to filter for automatic scholarships only. I'm going to leave it all states, not worrying about the distance. By the way, for those of you that aren't familiar with it, this tool is really great because it helps you to select the kind of criteria that you're looking for. As far as rankings, if that's what you're talking about, let's at least go with maybe how about just ranked schools? I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty of too small a group there. And then as far as the funding gap, I'm going to leave that alone, but you can see that you can pick from that as well as your net cost. So let's do a little search here. When the search comes up, here are the things that you can sort by, because again, as you said, there are some things in here, but these are the specifics. So we could sort by the scholarship money, for example, let it recalibrate itself. And you can see, for example, this might not work for your particular family, but again, this is just our sample case here, but Berea College, which is a working college, comes up as being ideal. Then we've got DePaul University, which is in Indiana. And just so that if you click on these arrow keys, it opens up some things. So it shows you that they're over in Greencastle, Indiana, but their enrollment, the need met, their net cost, and so forth. So it does a nice little job of giving you some details. But my suggestion would be, again, to try to be very selective on what you're doing there. Let's see. Sorry, not sure why I did that, but we're in good shape there. Okay, let me go back to the questions again to see if there's any more in here. If you book a consultation to appeal the university cost and it does not change, are you refunded the consulting fee? What you're asking me is, can we guarantee that you're going to get that your appeal is going to work? And nobody can guarantee that. You want to know why? Because the fact of the matter is you're dealing with the human element. You're dealing with humans on the other side that are going to make the decision based on the facts that you give them. And there's no way that I could guarantee you that's going to work out. So if your intention is that you're going to try to get a guarantee, I'm sorry, we can't do that. I will tell you, we've had a lot of success with a lot of families. Last year, I personally helped a family get an additional $15,000 per year, which I think is pretty significant, folks. $60,000 has an impact on your bottom line. But again, every single case is unique. Your family is going to be unique. Your kiddo's unique. Your financial circumstances are unique. And every college is unique when it comes to what they do and how they approach this, because they control the pocketbooks when it comes to their own endowment money. And just understand that's the way that works. Okay. Any other questions? I'll pop out of that for a second, go back here to the program so that you can see again, plenty of nice search criteria here. And again, the thing that makes this program so nice and transparent is you've got 1 year numbers up here. Then we've got the 4 year numbers. We click on this, it opens it up, it goes right down to the affordability numbers. Like I said, then there's the compare and appeal side of things. And then finally, how to pay. Really great ways for you to very clearly talk about this as a family so that you don't put yourselves into financial jeopardy. Okay, let's see if there's any other questions over here. Can you send the final where you currently, can you send I'm not sure what that is. Were you currently to see if it's even a viable option to appeal? You're going to have to give me more details on what you're asking here. I'm sorry. If you're asking, can you send us your facts and give you an idea of whether we think you should appeal? No, you've got to schedule that 1 hour consultation to talk about that. That's only the fair thing to do. That would be like saying, can I send you, hey, doctor, can I send you my details without paying for my doctor visit? So no, you absolutely need to go ahead and put yourself in a position where or try to do it yourself. That's the other option, of course, that exists, is just go ahead and do it on your own. Any other questions at all from anybody? We've got about another 8 minutes and then we're going to wrap it up. I hope this has been helpful. You guys have asked some great questions. The whole topic tonight's obviously been all on appeals, and I hope you guys are also having your kiddos look for scholarships. This is the prime time to be looking for private scholarships out there, without a doubt. If you're trying to fill that college funding gap that exists, which I know many of you do, or many of you may have, then your student has to be involved in that process. Hopefully, the very best money that they receive is the scholarships from the colleges themselves, which again is the kind of information that you can get from us by looking at our program. But there are definitely plenty of other private scholarship opportunities out there. Just the challenge is this: the colleges, if you look at the financial aid picture, probably 20% of it is money that comes from the colleges themselves through scholarships and grants. But the next biggest chunk, of course, is the loans. And that makes up like 41% of the total amount of money that's out there. When we're looking at private scholarships, it's maybe 3 to 5% of the total money. And so it's a numbers game. In order to get the scholarships, you've just got to try to do everything you can. Any scholarship links you recommend? I absolutely think you ought to use the scholarship link that's factored into the MyCap software. You guys probably know that, but right down here, there's a database that's got $5.1 billion in private scholarships in there. You definitely ought to go in there and play around with this and see what options come up for your students. I do a couple of specific websites, places like Going Merry, MERY. I also like, FastWeb, which is the granddaddy of them all. It's been around a really long time. Scholarships 360 is another really good one. Scholarships America. Those are probably my biggies that I would suggest to you. It truly is all about casting a wide net, but making sure that your student is going to be in good shape with that. You're asking about the recording. Everybody who registered for this event will get a copy of the recording. So you'll get a link to that sometime tomorrow, I would assume, and then you'll be in good shape with that. How far in advance do we need to reserve a spot for a call? Should we schedule before having all offers in hand, or wait until April when we have them? I think you probably ought to wait. Make sure that you've got enough ammunition, meaning enough options, so that you're in a good place to have one of our experts talk it through with you and give you the best guidance possible. So we have a school that you have mentioned. You have been very successful with appeals. Okay, that's great. I guess you're saying that you know what that school is, or did I mention that school? I don't know. But there are some schools out there that you're going to have a very difficult time with it. I mentioned 5,500, 65, 75, 70 federal loans for undergraduates earlier. Can you explain that again? Yeah, the fact of the matter is that federal student loans that are available to your student are 5,500 the freshman year, 6,500 the sophomore year, 7,500 the junior year, 7,500 the senior year. And it's a use it or lose it. So you either take the full $5,500 the freshman year, or you don't get it, because it doesn't get added to the next year. In addition to that, depending upon your student aid index, or specifically, which is your expected family contribution, let's just keep it simple for you folks. It's possible, if you've got a really low EFC compared to the cost of the school, that some or up to $3,500 of the first year's $5,500 loan could be subsidized, which means the interest is being covered by the federal government during the time the student is in college. The sophomore year, it goes up to $4,500 that could be subsidized. And then in the junior and senior year, it's $5,500 per year. It could be. Now, whether you get the max or not is totally up to your student aid index or expected family contribution. Oh, okay. Thanks for listening on a prior webinar. Yeah, that's great. She's saying that she heard about the school that's good for appeals. Do I have to use private scholarships only for tuition or for supplies and pay for food, et cetera? It totally depends on the school itself. Or excuse me, let me repeat this. It totally depends on where the money's coming from. If it's a private scholarship, it may have no limitations on it. Now, in other cases, it could be that scholarship is going to be sent directly to your college and gets applied to tuition cost. Just make sure that you do your research. Excuse me. Something about you're saying that 55 is automatic. Look, if you submit your FAFSA, even if Bill Gates' kids submitted their FAFSA, they could get $5,500 staff loan. So yes, it's automatic. Excuse me. That's without a job, without a credit score, without a cosigner. So that's absolutely the amount that your student can have access to, no matter what the school is, whether it's a community college, a junior college, or even up to an Ivy League school. $5,500 is what's available the freshman year. Okay, folks, we've got about another minute, maybe 2 minutes here before we're going to wrap up. I hope, again, this has been helpful for you. We've covered a lot of ground tonight, especially on the appeals, but I know it's a hot topic right now. And I do hope that if you're stuck, don't be afraid to reach out to us for help. That's why we're here. We're here to try through CAP to guide you. Of course, some folks tonight asked a ton of questions personally. The same name was coming up over and over again. So I sure hope you got a lot of your questions answered pro bono there. But when you're in over your head on other situations, or it's a real personal nature, you got to ask yourself this question, okay? You're getting ready to send your son or daughter to an extremely expensive school. It's almost like you're handing them the keys to an expensive car or to a home. Do you think it's worth it to spend a little bit of money to make sure that you get the right answers? I don't know. I personally think it is. And on that note, we'll wrap up for this evening. Just make sure that you are staying ahead of it. Do not wait too long to do your appeals. Hope this has been helpful. I wish you all the very best as you work your way through the process. So take care, everybody.